Yeah. If I die tomorrow, I hope you hear these words. I ain't here to flip no birds or sip no syrup. Hope the future generations can get this urge. Stay woke, youngin', and avenge these nerds.
Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are here. Oh, it's your boy Sebastian.
It's your boy Law.
And your boy Tone from across the hall.
So yeah, we're here on a Tuesday night, just the nerds hanging out. Because we're here for you guys, and I don't know about you guys. It's been a tiring week already, and we're only on Tuesday.
Yes and no.
It's that tire in August because summer's winding down and Labor Day's starting and
I feel like August is just busy too. Like there's so much that happens in August that you're just kind of trying to squeeze it all into 1 month, and then September comes and you're like stumbling through the door of September and just like ready to crash.
Well, let's get through the announcements so we can get to the fun stuff of the show. So first podcast announcements, blah, 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 podcast guest spots. So no guest spots anytime soon, but we want to give a shout out over at Get In Tune because George from Catch the Craze is on there tonight. So after this show, go to the On Demand, check it out, rewatch it, give a shout out to Michael Gracia, tell him we sent you. We dropped our creator series on Friday, Chandra Free, our interview with Chandra Free. So we got to interview her. Awesome. Again, creative. What I did differently this time around, guys, is that after this episode too, you can go actually in the description. It is there for you guys to actually click and watch. It's a great interview. It goes about 20-30 minutes. And again, if you want to listen to it audio, go to Spotify. Also too, I want to give a shout out to Emilio Rodriguez. Sent me over a book for us to read, Exodus from Darkfire Press. So I got to read it. It was a great book. Again, head over to darkfirepress.com. I put the link in the description for you guys to go there, check it out. It's a great book. He wrote it, has a great art team that pretty much helped put this together and all that. So again, Emilio's been in the chat, so shout out to you, Emilio, for just sending out that book. It's a great book, guys, so I highly recommend it. Also too, if you've been following our Instagram and TikTok, I have posted a schedule that has all the creative series going out all the way until December.
Yo, that's so crazy to me that we've like a lot of work.
Yo, everybody doesn't know how crazy we work behind the scenes of all the interviews we pre-recorded. But it was a lot. It was a lot of great interviews, a lot of great people. So I'm excited for all those interviews to come out because it was a lot of great people we got to speak to and everything. So again, if you guys are not following on the Instagram and the TikTok, please follow it. Again, it has the whole list of all the creator series that are coming out. So enough of that. So yeah, subscribe to us on TikTok and YouTube. Please follow us. Everyone who's already following us and subscribing, we thank you. This is how you stay up to date with what we're doing, fun stuff and all that. I mean, we did a fun photo shoot over the summer. If you missed it, you kind of missed it. But it was the all white photo shoot with the barbecue and Tony on the grill. It's gonna happen again. It will happen again. It will happen again.
I nominate our next outfit. It's just all black.
Okay.
Like everything.
I'm not doing that shit in the summer, man.
Not in the summer. Who said summer? I said the next fit.
Winter is coming.
Listen.
I'm not gonna see you. I'm not gonna see you till next summer. That's what you're trying to tell me.
I don't know.
That's how you feel.
I mean, the holiday.
Just tell me how you really feel. If you want me to stay in New York,
if you want that knee, or if you want, whatever we have. I think ham is what we do on Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Yeah.
We should have you guys choose the next outfit for us. Is it going to be pink? It's going to be black?
Oh, my God.
Have you guys vote?
I would do it, though.
I would.
Ooh. We are less than 2 weeks away, guys. Are you excited?
Yo, it's again, August has been so wild and crazy. We got so much coming up.
Listen, I am excited for this show because, again, if you guys haven't checked out the website, there's a lot of great stuff now already posted on the website from featured creators, artists, panels, or pretty much all the Saturdays panels are up. The listing for Sundays panels, the cosplay contest, it's still open for those who submit in. The rules are there. $100 gift card from Amazon or Apple. Use code Get Nerdy with it 10% to get off 10% off the VIP swag. If you're looking for a digital vendors booth, you can get 10% off too with that code. So booths are still open and all that. You can actually go to the website to check out what those vendors booths are. Sebastian Jones is one of the feature creators on that. Sam Vera from Catch the Craze, and also to JM DeSantis from Darkfire Press.
Boy, Ed Iron Pinky back in the show, back in the building.
Again, this show is developing to be great stuff, great things, and then over 30 plus panels that are happening. So again, there are over 30 plus panels happening in the span of 2 days virtually for everyone to join. And we're not talking about a continuous stream. These are going to be individual panels that are going to be airing throughout the day. So check out the time, check out the listing. If you want to find out again to creative and everything, this is the best way, because everything is a tutorial for someone who is there looking to get into creative, from cosplay to voice acting to comics to the crafting. I mean, man, we got it. But 28th, 29th next week. And just to say it too, next week's Nerds, not only will we do What If, it's going to be a little bit of a pre-show for Beyond Con, because Eric Hutch will be in the building, the CEO of Beyond, so he will be a guest on the show next week. So yes, that is a little bit right there for Beyond Con. We also got to give a shout out, because September 4th and September 5th, we will be there September 5th for the virtual show for Geek South Staten Island. That is their website right there. If you're in the Staten Island area or in the tri-state area over there, their live shows on the 4th. If you can't make it, or you still want to be indoors and everything, because everything out there with COVID and all that, you also have their virtual shows. So again, check it out. The virtual shows on the 5th. We will be doing again a panel on the 5th for the show. I'll be doing also a live drawing as well. So make sure you guys have the date set. Finally, check out Poughkeepsie area, Galleria Mall, 23rd, 24th. Keep following the website for Incredicon HV from Credit Chat. If you guys haven't checked out Credit Chat by Mike Lopez, go check it out. It's in the description. Check it out after the show. But again, check it out. They're doing their show the 23rd, 24th at the Poughkeepsie Galleria Mall. Make sure you're going to their website to keep up to date with everything that's going on. So make sure you guys are following that. Now, as I was doing that talk about Beyond Con, because we're doing a lot of panel hosting, Tony's going to be hosting some panels. Law's going to be hosting some panels. I'm going to be hosting some panels. And Tony's going to be hosting a panel for the podcasters on Saturday. One of the many guys joining on the podcast channel, on the podcast panel. You guys have seen him on the show before. You've seen him on the show before. You've seen him play the game. He tried to play the game and he lost the game because, Tony brought the game. And sometimes he wants to bring a little nerd Jesus in our life. So I want to give it up for the one, the only, Charlie Radio Williams.
All right. First of all, I need to know if you guys can hear me out there.
We can.
I can't hear you, Charlie.
We can. We see that mic. We see that mic.
All right. So you can hear me.
We can hear you.
I'm a fan of the lighting.
This is a sloppy setup. I feel like I'm a mess. I would have put on my whole Jesus piece and came out and started the night with a sermon, but I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready, ladies. I'm sorry. I apologize.
We were talking about it.
Do better, Charlie.
It's getting to that point where it's like Lil said, it's the end of the summer. And everybody's like, oh my God. Yeah. Charlie, welcome back.
Thank you guys for having me. Law, I saw your message. Law inboxed me the other day. I've been meaning to get back to you. I'm just like all over the place, mentally, physically. So
don't worry about it.
So Tone, it's good to see you. Tone, did anybody ever tell you look like you are always at a firing range? Whenever I see the video, your glasses, the hat, and you are literally like at a firing range. Wanted to put that out there.
Listen. I gotta shoot down haters of the mustache. You gotta take them out.
Ooh, there we go.
Before we get started, can I ask you, how do you identify your mustache? Is it a porn stash? Is it a classic? Was it a Starsky and Hutch stash? Like, how do you define your stash?
Labels?
I don't know. I don't think I've labeled it. It kind of just happened. It was one of those things where, like, oh my God, 2 years ago now. Pre-pandemic, I started kind of growing it out, and I was like, this is working. I've got my little stash brush and my stash scissors. And I was like, you know what? Let me start doing it up. I stopped doing the baby face thing. I was like, let me just get the stash going. It's kind of it's been sticking.
See, it's working for you, but that's why I say, like, it looks like you're at a gun range because you have that 1990s cop.
Someone's here.
Oh man.
It's Tone's arch nemesis.
Oh my God.
The Morgan. That's what we're calling him.
It's not David, it's Mike,
Mike's his apprentice.
Haters of the mustache.
Anyway, let's talk about some fun news, like in the news right now, because Titan season 3 is out. For those who wanted to know, it is on HBO Max. I think I'm the only one on the panel who has seen season 1 and 2. I've enjoyed Titans.
So
I think it's one of the better DC properties.
I think season 1, or at least the first half of season 1, whatever that was when they got out of the asylum or whatever the case, or the hospital. So I guess that's season 1 in total.
That's season 1.
That's mid-season 1?
That's mid-season 1. I'm going to say this. This is my only complaint about the show. The way that they ended season 1 and the way they began season 2, I felt was in reverse. They should have had the opening for season 2 as the ending for season 1. That is my only complaint. But that's why I don't want to waste too much time on
One of my biggest gripes is just how they handled the Bat family. A lot of they're just like...
It gets better. It gets better. But I like how they handle Jason Todd, because he's
really
ooh,
he was my biggest gripe.
He's
really,
because he sucked in the comics too before he got off by the Joker, so he sucks.
Yeah, but
he's an asshole. I love it.
God.
He is such an asshole.
We're not here for Titans. We're not talking about Titans.
Anyway,
please.
I just want to say season 1 to me was trash, and I'm glad the writing got better during season 2.
Wait,
That's
so
it.
Charlie, since you're here,
Yeah,
Batman versus Superman or Titans?
No,
not even a comparison.
No,
Stop.
Don't answer.
Okay, next up, Tony. How was Free Guy?
Free Guy was amazing.
was it?
I loved it. Saw it with my wife. She loved it because it was a good movie, and I loved it because it was a good movie with really good video game references, and they were able to really make that whole world, because it's kind of like a GTA world that he lives in, but they made it work, and the story is really great. I had so much fun with that movie. It's really good.
Is it equivalent to like a live action Lego movie? A little bit.
I mean, well, it depends if you like what you expected, like what you expect a good version of that to be.
Yeah.
Because the Lego movie was a good version of what we want a Lego movie to be.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's because it's like, because video game movies are just hard because you don't know what to do with the story because they're so expansive. And this
I didn't even watch it. I helped a friend with the red carpet stuff. Like I helped her do camera work for it, and then they were like, "You guys want to watch the movie?" We're like, "Nah, we're okay."
Yeah, no. So this was good because like they took the elements that make it a video game, but they wrapped a really well done story in it. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is fantastic. He had his hand in creating the movie, so I think we were just
Have
you seen like all the YouTube commercials that he's been? Well, he has his own channel that he does a lot of his promoting.
It's so good.
Like definitely funny.
Have you seen the posters they made for it? Like
they did the Bad Art Mega Man poster.
Yeah,
this is how you know Ryan Reynolds is a game fan. They did bad box art Mega Man.
Yep. And it's rated PG-13, so they get one fuck, and the one fuck they use is great.
Now, next on the list in the news, and I'm glad you're here for this one, Charlie, is Disney having problems with a second Marvel star? I mean, I don't think they're having problems, but I guess I could reword that. How do you guys are feeling about Bob Chapek right now? What's going on?
I thought you were going to talk about Dave Bautista and where he stands.
Well, there's a little, so there's that and that. So we're going to start with our boy Shang-Chi and how they're like, oh yeah, we're going to experiment with this movie release.
I just shake my head when we talk about Dave Bautista because like I love Dave Bautista as Drax, but like you don't carry that clout, man. Like
also, I've heard stuff saying that it wasn't so much that they didn't talk to him. A lot of the reps for this, like I think one of the head showrunners or writers for What If was like they reached out as far as he knew to at least their people directly or to the actors directly. So the fact that he didn't get anything, maybe the offer for it was too low, and they were just like, we're not going to tell him. It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's gonna. I mean, we'll find out tomorrow because I believe tomorrow is T'Challa's episode, so we'll see how big of an impact Drax is. Because even in this past episode of What If, they got a bunch of actors, but they've got like one or two lines. They just repraise the role just to repraise it, but they, like Stanley Tucci was in it, but he had like two lines.
Yeah.
You know, so it might be that where Drax isn't really a big part. Where versus Yondu, you need Yondu to be Yondu. So
right.
Well, I think the slippery slope is that there's a lot of want for the continuity with fans, because there's another animation I could reference that is great in its own right, but it's also going through the shitter because they stayed away from continuity. Hashtag War for Cybertron.
Hey! I liked it. It was an alternate take
So
on it.
I'm
It was an
watching,
alternate
I'm watching
take.
it now. I'm watching it now, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
It's the same thing, like because, and not to veer off, but because it kind of ties in, with them not going with the voice actor of the original Optimus Prime, the voice actor for Megatron, because they were like, oh, they're going to cost too much money. And Peter Cullen actually talks about it, where he's like, yeah, they opted not to go for us because they didn't want to pay us what we're worth. And so I can see where Dave Bautista's like, look, if you're looking at it from a continuity basis, like you're already bringing in all the actors to do this. Why not keep that continuity? I think it does the fan service, and it does something that DC keeps forgetting to do, and that's keeping actors in place to roles without switching them out.
But how do you feel that they're saying that Shang-Chi right now is an experiment? I mean, I know it's like their experiment to see how it's going to do in theaters.
Yeah,
right now.
we gotta make sure we play it out the way it's supposed to be, where the movie itself is not an experiment. It is the release schedule of the movie that is the experiment. That the movie will be coming out in theaters.
The phrasing of it doesn't.
Yeah, the
terrible, awful phrasing, especially for the first pan Asian superhero movie like this. Horrible phrasing, doing it in an investor's call where you think no one's going to let that out, kind of just letting yourself talk without thinking about it. Not defending the word use. Like that's kind of where it is. I think they have to do damage control because of what happened with how they're treating Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow. And I think they're just going to see what happens with Shang-Chi and see how it goes. It's going to be out in theaters, and I think after 45 days is when it's going to go to Disney Plus. I think people are gonna watch it because they're gonna. I don't see how that experiment works, because who's not gonna watch the newest Marvel movie within 45 days? Like all the people who watch them. There are ways to do it. Like in New Jersey, we have a drive-through, so we're gonna go see it at the drive-through.
Right.
You know.
Well, me and Sean, who my partner in crime couldn't be here, we were actually talking about that because he brought that to my attention, and I think it's a interesting idea, and I feel like they should have did it with Black Widow. If they were going to try the experiment out, they should do it with Black Widow. I think it would have avoided a lot of the legal challenges that are happening right now, as far as like the breach of contract and the amount of money that she's not getting. I think that it should have happened there. That it's a great idea to have both in theaters and streaming happening at the same time, but a fair middle ground for theaters is to allow for them to have that early access. Where, think about it like this: in the past, when a movie would hit theater, and then after a year or after 6 months, it would be released. I think with streaming services, if they allow this 45 days to happen, it allows for the box office to meet whatever they're able to meet financially, because you still have to take into consideration that we're in a time of COVID. So not all theaters are open. People, as much as they want to return back to a sense of normal, they're still utilizing the option that, hey, I can just sit at home and have a movie night. So I think if they would, this is with Black Widow, it would have been a better experiment to see how does this work out. How would it, and it allows you to forecast, okay, this is the amount of seats we can fill in theaters. All right, this is what we grossed here, because Disney really doesn't release like their box office. Well, they don't release their streaming numbers, how much they do financially, but box office numbers do come out, and then double down after 45 days, let it hit streaming services, which is a lot quicker than waiting the 6 months for it to hit DVD or so forth.
So let's jump into deep in what we wanted to talk about in this episode, which is the new series that started last week that debuted for the Marvel Universe. What if we turn this on?
Tone, do the thing.
Yes. Tonight we are talking finally season 1, episode 1 of What If. Captain Carter, we're the first Avenger. As you know, we will talk everything. Nothing is off the table. Tony Stark has died. Bucky did not die and is regular. And Peggy Carter is in 2012. I would assume based off how that episode ended, if we're going based off the Avengers 1 timeline.
So we'll start with you, Charlie. With what of your thoughts when you saw this series when it came out? This first episode, what are your initial thoughts? What were your feelings before we start getting into details?
You know what? I enjoy it, and I'm gonna start. I'm definitely going to talk shit about DC. I feel like, so for the longest, I've always been like DC has been able to capitalize in the animation market where Marvel has fallen short. I feel like the What If series is really going to be Marvel's answer to, okay, we can tell a good story, especially if we continue to use the formula that we have with the current live universe. I think so far, like, what we got in that episode 1 was just awesome. Like, the fact that Cap Rogers doesn't become Cap. You know, like, you in the beginning, you're like, oh, I think he's dead, but he's not dead, and then he ends up inheriting the Iron Suit. But then I don't know. I just think it's a really awesome episode. That's super spoilers. I know if you didn't watch it, I'm sorry.
We already said it.
We already
said it.
Spoiler warning. We're not.
You had a week. You had a week.
You did.
Yeah,
one
up.
Like we don't even do what we used to do, where it was like 4 days. Like before, it was like 4 days. The episode would drop on Friday, and then we would talk on Tuesday. Like literally, I have a week.
But some of the tones I do. I was talking to my roommate about this, and I really do like some of the tones, like, of that time frame. So even when she has the serum, and she's like, "Hey, I did this because if we didn't do this, we were going. The experiment was going to be ruined." And you have the generals who are like, "You're not even supposed to be here because you're a woman."
Yeah,
and I think that is a very, very strong. I think the only other time I see that in the Marvel universe is with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Falcon is saying that, look, if I don the cap, like as a person of color, if I don the silver suit, this is how I'm going to be looked. And I think with Peggy, you see the same thing, where as a woman, she's able to represent the mantle of America or Britain, because I don't think they really identify if she's Captain Britain or if she's Captain America.
She's Captain Carter.
Captain, yeah. Which I feel like they're trying to play it safe because her uniform is the Captain Britain uniform. And I get it that she's now representing both the US and Britain, but anyway, but
she's
the fact that
she's representing the allies.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the fact that in that moment where she's the strongest person in the room, she can take down a whole entire army. She is seen as a woman. I think that is great writing. It definitely sticks to a timepiece.
No, I agree. I think so we never, and maybe it happened more so in the Peggy Carter show. I didn't watch it because they don't consider that canon, but we don't really see those struggles that Peggy deals with. Like, we see her as this really strong female character who holds her own and needs to get shit done. You call him Peggy. Right. But but we even get, stuff from her daughter saying that her niece, talk about how she was always trying to break through the glass ceiling. And we never got a chance to see that because her whole story happened with Steve back in the day. So the cartoon allows us to see that struggle of Peggy and how she gets through it. And I think they did a really great job, to what you're saying, Charlie, to illustrate that, because we just don't have enough time with her. Maybe in the future, if they decide to bring Captain Carter into live action, maybe we'll get more of that and we'll see what that struggle is. But the fact that we were able to get that within 30 minutes. I mean, shit, we had a 30-minute. This is a jammed-packed episode. We got all of Captain America: First Avenger plus stuff with Peggy in 30 minutes.
Yeah. No one could say it couldn't be done, but it's like, like you said, Tone, we saw a lot of Captain America: First Avenger in this. Like, we saw a lot of scenes. Actually, we saw important scenes in the movie recreated when she comes out with the prisoners when they were rescued, in that whole scene that is the firefight. And originally was Steve holding the shield, now it's Peggy. The scene with the train, they kind of recreated that too. And again, this was all, they took a 2-hour long movie and recreated a story in 30 minutes. And I think, and to touch on it, yeah, in the Peggy Carter show, they showed what she went through, because again, it was still that whole like, you're a woman, you can't do this. When they touched up on that in this, I was like, yeah, they're sticking to the time period, because they didn't, like, if you were a woman in the army, you were either a medic or you were working back home in the factories or the administrative. Yeah. She was on the front line. And it was funny to see that tone of that general. It's like, you can't be out there, blah, blah, blah. And then she's winning, making him look good. Like, yeah, it was my idea. I'm like, fuck you.
Well, remember,
they gotta keep it straight. I mean, if anything is accurate, it's taking credit for shit that isn't yours.
Right. Well, remember, my favorite moments, Charlie.
There's the subtle joke where they're talking about the suit, and he's like, yeah, had I became Captain America, they was going to send me on tour to sell bonds. And I think that was you have to kind of clap at that little, like, okay, yeah, you're right, Sebastian, and everybody's right. Like, they took a whole 2-hour movie and they found ways to condense it into what if, that right there.
You want to
what if?
My favorite 2 moments were when she was rescuing the prisoners and Dum Dum goes, oh, they have women like doing whatever. Like, I forgot what like the throwaway line was.
Some line.
and like she tosses the guy against the cage. He drops and he goes, oh, I guess so. You immediately see him just go like, I'm an idiot for saying what I said, because obviously she's getting it done. Like, I don't care who rescues me right now. I'm in no position to talk. She's doing it. Cool. No problem. The second part was when that same general was in the room and she flipped the line of like, you're lucky to even be in this room. And I was like, oh shit. Boom. You know? Because it is one of those things where we like Charlie brought up, that we see in Falcon Winter Soldier and with this, that but just because they have the suit doesn't mean that they get the suit and the power doesn't mean that they get the respect that like comes with it. It's still like, oh yeah, you're our dancing monkey kind of thing. And it was like, come on. Like, but it was good to see that they like made a point to like highlight those throughout the show.
Mm-hmm. And what's kind of crazy too is that like Steve in the first American, he was the dancing monkey. He didn't just get to go off into the fighting lines. He literally was a dancing monkey to sell bonds, and they were like, we want nothing to do with Peggy Carter, even though she's this really strong soldier. The fact that she's a woman, we can't have her selling bonds. Like they just were like, that's a whole fail.
Well, I mean,
it's Amazon. Like,
it definitely falls into that hierarchy of patriarchal conversation when it comes to either the way that we look at women, the way that we look at people of color, the way that we look at POCs in this country. And I'm very happy that Marvel is tackling that. I mean, even if you grew up reading comic books, like I feel like every genre comic of character, they've always managed to tackle these very important social issues. And I'm happy that it's continuing across the board in this universe. So
no, I have to ask you guys, how did you guys feel about these animated fight scenes? Holy shit. Holy shit. How did you Charlie. So
wait, so is it so I'm trying to question, like, is it all 3D or is it part 3D, 3-dimensional character design, or is it 2D character design? Does anybody know at this point? Is this fully like
I think it's more... like it's a mix of it's not 2D, it's 3D, but it has that cell animation feel that makes it feel like you're watching something in 2D. And Law made the comparison too when we were talking about the episode. It looks like something from Love, Death, and Robots. And if anybody watched Love, Death, and Robots season 1, it's the episode Fish Night. It kind of looks reminiscent to that style of animation. And the cool thing too is that as we were looking down to see if anybody was tied to that, they have a lot of big animators who worked on a lot of big projects, and one of those projects that we all saw and loved was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And we saw how that had that 3D style, but it looked 2D. So to see them using that and getting a lot of these people who've worked on a lot of big 3D movie projects to work on this show, they didn't spare any expense when it came down to, okay, we got to get people to make this feel like it's just popping from a comic book. So yeah, it felt like a whole 2D style, but it popped off the pages.
It's what bad 3D anime wants to be.
Oh,
well, and this is going to sound bad. If the animation quality was bad, it would look like Archer. And I enjoy Archer, but if the animation quality was bad, it would look like Archer. And Archer,
I'm not sure if I should be offended by that as a huge fan of Archer.
I'm a fan because it's kind of.
You don't watch Archer for the animation. You watch Archer for the voice acting.
I mean, but it's. I feel like it's a very specific thing. We're not gonna.
The animation for Archer works with the voice acting and the story they're trying to tell.
Right.
Like you can't have one without the other. It works.
All I'm saying is, if you dumb down the animation, because I have it playing right on the side of me. If you were to dumb it down, especially in the genre that they're using, it looks like Archer season 6. So that's why I say if you dumb it, if you dumb it down, if you was to dumb down the animation, it would look like, if the animation was bad, it would look like Archer.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find all the bad 3D anime. I'm gonna send it to Charlie to watch, so that Charlie could appreciate this animation. But no, I mean, look how it was so fluid when she did the whole thing with Captain Carter with the trucks. When she went like this with the trucks and I was like, dude, that just looks so fluid. And then how it just like flipped, it's just, and then the crunch and everything. And then she's just going, I was like, dude, oh my God,
I feel like her excitement of like, oh, that was cool, I'm going to do it again, was all of us going, yeah, do that again. That was awesome.
Yeah. and I think they really highlighted, and I don't know what the time frame was for her, but they really highlighted the fact that she has more experience as a fighter at that time than Steve, because Steve just had the grit and the heart, but like she had the practical sense of it because she was an agent. So she was able to kind of get it and use it and be very fluid with her movements, versus Steve, where it probably would have been way more choppy for him because he finally got this kind of body to do that stuff in. And they really emphasized that this was like second nature to her.
Well, piggybacking off of that, Tone, we talked about it like, what does the serum do? And we talked about it in Falcon and Winter Soldier as well, was the serum literally enhances what you have and what you are, So if Steve, with a rap sheet full of ailments at his disposal, where he wasn't looking too hot before he stepped inside a chamber, versus Peggy, who is in peak physical condition and a great tactician fighter, like it was already going to be a whole walking problem.
Also, to add, it enhances their character. But go, Charlie.
This is considered the first super soldier, right? Serum, right?
Yeah.
This is
That's the good stuff.
I would like to ask a question about this, but I want to make sure, like, this, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't my question. So I don't want this question related to me. This is a question that is coming from a person. So,
oh man,
who did it better? Captain Marvel or Captain Carter?
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna
bringing that to the table.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Captain Carter, because this is the thing. I liked Captain Marvel. It was a good movie, but it fell along those lines of early Marvel movies when you can tell they were rushing a character to get them ready for an ensemble movie, because they did that with Thor in his first movie. But I feel, again, even just coming out for this as characteristics and everything, Captain Carter was just more liked, because Peggy Carter is a staple in the MCU. And Haley Atwell portrays this character very well, and you just like her character more than Captain Marvel. And I don't feel like we've gotten to know the real personality from Captain Marvel, because we haven't really had that. She was just very stoic, like a robot in a way, where Captain Carter, Peggy, is like, she has this charm to her. It's kind of like, comparison is this, For example, The Rock. The Rock was one of those people with this charisma and everything, get the crowd around her. That is what Haley Atwell brought to this character, and that's what we got with Agent Carter. You loved Agent Carter, and now the fact that we're getting her as Captain Carter, she has this charisma, she has this. It's just everything about her is likable. You just love, and even when she's like having fun beating the shit out of people, I was like, dude, there was just more personality in there than they allowed to happen in Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also think it has to do with the fact that like with Peggy is that she's relatable because she's human, right? Like Carol sure is human, but she's a Kree. She, with her not having her memory, she's not relatable. She's not relatable, at least in the first movie. I don't find her relatable. She's a Kree who's on Earth and is like, all this shit makes no sense. And I'm now picking and choosing and finally getting my memories back. So maybe in the second Captain Marvel movie, she's going to have some fucking personality because she's going to have to deal with Photon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like she's going to be like, why weren't you there for my mom? And she's going to have to deal with that. So, I mean, I'll wait for the second movie. But that's always been my thing with Carol and how she's portrayed in the movie. She just doesn't feel human because she wasn't her from Captain Marvel on. She wasn't human. She was Kree.
Okay.
She kind of feels like Superman with amnesia.
Yeah.
Like Superman fully, decked out powers and just like, oh, like, is this what happened? Is this how I'm supposed to react to things? And again, I'm one of those who liked Captain Marvel. But the breakdown for most people is it felt like she had her powers and it was less about like the hero's journey that we're so used to versus like, all right, I'm big, I'm strong. Just how strong am I?
Yeah.
But do you guys think that like, because I enjoy it. Do you think that because we already know that this is a variant storyline, and I'm going to touch on that in a second, because this is a variant storyline, and because Captain America, the First Avenger, really sets up this universe, it's very easy for us to transition to Peggy Carter. Like if we didn't have a Captain America First Avenger movie, and then we still got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we got Agent Carter. Do you feel like the transition to really enjoying this would be there? Those nuances and so forth.
Well, there are rumors that with what's being said, because they're saying that What If is official canon. And since Loki opened up the Pandora's box of the multiverse concept into the MCU now, the rumors are that by the end of this series, we're going to see the Guardians of the Multiverse.
Okay.
And it's like, and it's funny because I think we got a small preview of that in a Toyota commercial, or it was a car commercial, where it shows like some of the main leads for some of the episodes, and then Party Thor comes in the car and it starts smacking Ultrons, because we know that Ultron is going to be some form of big bad. We know that we're going to see a version of Doctor Strange, a version of Spider-Man, a version of Black Panther, T'Challa as a Star-Lord. So that's what the rumor is right now, because again, they released the entire episode list, and this may set up something, and it may even set up something going into the multiverse of madness. Who knows?
Right.
But there are rumors too that a live version of Captain Carter may make an appearance in the MCU movies, just with this concept again of the multiverse being open.
But to answer your question,
go ahead.
I think that I mean, for me personally, I think it would work. I think Haley Atwell plays Peggy really well. That I enjoy seeing her on screen. I just see her as just a counterpart to Steve.
Okay.
Like she's on equal level. She's an equal to him in every way. Like sure, she's his love interest, but I don't see her as just like the girl he's going to go pick up to go dance with. Like she's equally as part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Haley Atwell plays her to that point where it's like, we want to see more Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to question that, go check out the Agent Carter show. It was going to make you want more Peggy. Well, you want to
yeah. I have another question there from the audience. This isn't my
from the audience.
I just want to make sure.
I'm gonna say it's just all Sean.
I wanted to touch upon real quick when you were mentioning the episodes. When we know we're getting an episode about Spider-Man. Apparently, they pulled back from how dark they would have made Spider-Man in that whatever that story would be. And then someone showed a clip of like early like 90s Spider-Man when he turned into a whole spider, and they were like scary. Like, you realize what kids we have, right? Like, come on. Like, we're the 90s kids. Like, you're not doing this to us.
They made a whole toy after that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Listen,
I had the toy.
God, what was his
Man Spider?
No, I'm thinking of Morpheus. Like, Morpheus in the cartoon sucked your blood with his Morbius. My bad. Morbius.
Wrong character.
I was trying and I didn't want to look it up. It's fine. He sucked your blood with little suckers on your hands, and that's way more creepier than a dude biting you.
Yeah,
it was. I was like, I'm gonna suck the blood from my hand.
I'm curious to see what they do with this like dark Spider-Man, but we're gonna make it PG-13 or whatever. I don't know what they're doing.
I thought it was Dark Doctor Strange, because we're getting in.
We're getting a Dark Doctor Strange. We're getting Spider-Man Zombie Slayer, but I think to what you were saying, well, they actually pulled a Spider-Man episode because they were going to do the Man Spider one where he turns, but this one's like Spider-Man Zombie Slayer.
So,
boo!
If I can ask this question, right, because this deals with gatekeeping.
Absolutely not.
Ever since we talked about Loki and the What If series, I've noticed a trend, and I'm not calling anybody out who's watching this, but if you are, maybe I am calling you out.
Are you calling out our own fans right now?
Gatekeepers like to say things like, I don't like that. That has nothing to do with the story. And then you're like, hey, it's an alternative universe, or it's an alternative story. Still, I don't like it. But then Marvel capitalizes on a word that still means alternative, and they say it's a variant, and people are like, "Oh, it's I like it because it's an alternative storyline. It's a variant." Wait, how do you like one because it's now called a variant, which is just an alternative story? But if you give, I just wanted to bring that to the forefront. I'm not calling nobody out there.
Shots fired by Charlie.
I got
a little bit of spice.
I'm not here for gatekeeping. Like, I'll gatekeep you away from a seat at the table so we don't hear you.
Let's go.
So I'm just because one of the things I think about with the What If series is I think it's a great way to play around with fan theory. I think it's a great and safe way to play around because it automatically sets the tone and says, hey, outside of the canon universe that you are used to, what if? Like that second time
you want to know what's funny?
It's a fucking sandbox. Just have fun, man.
You want to know what's funny? And I think I know what you're talking about. I'm just gonna weigh in there because I know a lot of people like, well, the DC movies now they're gonna introduce the concept of the multiverse, blah blah blah. Like, I'm sorry, the DCEU didn't introduce the concept of the multiverse in their cinema. They actually did it in the shows.
Yeah,
with the Flash,
Earth 1, Earth 2,
Earth 1, Earth 2. So, and they did it well too. Pre-What If, pre-Loki, and they did it pretty well. And that's how they brought. And then, and I would say this on air, on record, is that the Arrowverse's Crisis of Infinity Earths is the second best superhero ensemble that is done as a live action. Right after what Marvel did with the Infinity War, because it gave a lot of nods to a lot of DC properties, actors who work, like for example, Kevin Conroy got a nice big nod in there as a version of Batman. We got to see this guy who played Tom Welling, and it kind of like gave a closing to Smallville. We got to see the original actor who played the Flash, John Wesley Shipp, play his version of the Flash, and it was a continuation from the show. And I was like, yo, they really gave
Brandon
a lot
Routh got to put on the Kingdom
Superman
suit. and actually properly get to say goodbye to that character.
Playing Superman. And again, it's the second, and they did that multiverse concept well. Now that it's in the hands of Marvel now, and I feel like, again, you have 3 comic book universes, because the Arrowverse was always separate from the DCU, and I don't think they should have done that. They should have used it to help launch the other properties, but they didn't. They didn't want to. The studio execs didn't want to do it at the time, and I don't think
it's too messy. Your entire universe is a mess.
And here's how Crisis did it well. They even featured Ezra Miller's Flash meeting the Arrowverse Flash in that one scene, and they might do it again this time to give a nod again to, and I was like, that's what you need to do. Have fun with it, and that's what we're seeing with Marvel. But go ahead, Charlie. I know you're you know what? Charlie is the host today. Go ahead, Charlie. What's the question?
First of all, I hate giving DC credit, but I want to give them DC credit because Marvel did something that I'm always clowning them on, and I think it's a very don't want to curse on the show. Kids watching.
What kids?
So
kids.
They did a very shitty move, right? And I this all deals with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We all know that cinematic wise in the Marvel universe, they killed off Agent Coulson. They brought him back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they were like, that version of him does not exist. Now, with us now having a multiverse timeline that they can bring anybody back, I hope they don't drop the ball and they allow for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be joined into this universe, because if they do not, then I will say that yes, DC, who the only reason they brought together all those franchises was because it made sense and they realized they had either shows on different networks or they just needed a reason to bring all their titles to one big universe. If Marvel does not pick up on this narrative and bring Agent Coulson back using multiverse, using variants, using this whole Loki affecting the timeline, which is this is the perfect way, then I don't have any.
Can I add? I know we're supposed to be talking about what if, but can I add? So we already know that the actress for Chloe, she walked away from what was it, Powerpuff Girls. I was just looking up some stuff, but there are rumors that her as Quake and the actor who played Phil Coulson are going to make their MCU appearances, and it may be in Secret Invasion, because they were talking about that she had to walk away from Powerpuff Girls due to a conflict in her schedule. So we don't know fully yet, because again, Marvel doesn't put any of the characters they don't allow them to put that stuff on the IMDb until after they make the appearance. So yeah, what they're doing is I think what Kevin Feige is doing right now is that he's taking we know that the actor who played Daredevil is making his appearance, and we know that we've heard rumors that the actor who played Wilson Fisk is making his appearance in Hawkeye. We know that so these are things that keep popping up. He said he would cast the guy who played Matt Murdock, Jessica Jones, the actress who played Jessica Jones, the actor who played Punisher. He said he would just recast Luke Cage and Iron Fist to tell a different hero's power.
Which he should only do Iron Fist.
Yeah,
and especially after I heard. So
he didn't want to work out.
I heard from the stunt trainer was like, yeah, he didn't want to do any of his shit, and I was like, yeah, major props just went down off. Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, and I think it was like this. It's like, I know a lot of people get mad with the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all, but what they have to understand is the history is that Kevin Feige didn't have control of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was under the Marvel TV division at the time that was doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They did the Runaways, they did Cloak and Dagger, they did they did Agent Carter, they did the Inhumans. So that was under another branch that wasn't
can we not talk about Inhumans?
That can
stay in a bottle.
That can stay in a bottle. Not good. But now that Kevin Feige has control of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what Marvel did. They literally this has been since day one. My biggest gripe with both franchises is Marvel was like, hey, we don't have all of our property under the same umbrella of the cases because of legalities and all this other shit, blah blah blah. But we're gonna make it work. Then they start switching out the stuff that we know is canon to not be canon, but we're not going to say it's not canon. We're just not going to include it in anything. So all the Netflix stuff, they technically never like fully dismissed the Netflix Marvel shows. They literally just said like, oh yeah, like we're moving away from that and we're separate, but they never like said outright that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix shows, all those shows on Hulu were not canon. They never outright said it. Then you have DC who was like, hey, we own all our own property, but fuck it, we're gonna make everything separate. Like, y'all don't make a goddamn lick of sense right now. What are you doing?
And we're gonna tell you they're on different Earths.
Yo, it don't make no sense.
We're gonna cover our asses.
Oh my god.
To your point with Marvel, right? And something that I've always thought about, and this is why it makes me think about Agent Coulson, is that even if you take the Netflix series, one of the great things is that there's always reference back to the MCU. And all of the Netflix series, they refer to the attack on New York.
That was in the beginning. But even in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they refer to the attack on New York. And I think as long as that reference was created, no matter what they do, and Marvel, I'm speaking to you. You've set up the building blocks. You set up the building blocks. All right. When you allowed for writers to say the attack on New York, you set up the building blocks. Do not fuck this up, Marvel. That's my one F-bomb. Do not mess this up, because you have the opportunity to bring back everyone. Marvel. Let's talk about Marvel. Let's really talk about this. All right. Because you can go the path of DC. Sure. Hire actors who don't really care about the characters, write women characters that are written by men and there's no relation to it. But no, Marvel, you could do better. We expect you to do better. We want you to do better. Do better, Marvel. Do better. This has been a PSA from Charlie Radio Williams from the G's for Geek podcast. And for 25 cents a day, we could send Charlie a cup of coffee and a ham sandwich. Anyway, so let's get it, because we've went off a tangent on this, because there was a lot of other stuff I want to touch up. Well, I want to give a shout out to Jeffrey Wright, who came back who's in the Marvelverse now, playing the voice of Watsu the Watcher, who now we have the Watcher in play, but I don't want to spend too much time on the Watcher. We had the rumors are that might have been Samu Gorath, who Peggy Carter was fighting at the end, because again, we know that is an interdimensional character that is in the Marvel universe. Sounds like, tentacle action. But let's talk about the differences of how Peggy disappeared versus how Steve disappeared and is waking up. How did you guys feel about that? Because I will not lead with Charlie with this, because he gave him the PSA. We're going to leave with Law.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it works because you're dealing with two different things. With Steve going away, going on ice, and then getting discovered, the timeline passed, everything happened as it did. You get Hydra, you get like all the other elements of throughout history, that happened as we know it. But with the introduction of I'm not even gonna try to bother to say Garath, whatever the tentacle's name is. With this, we get another level of like that interdimensional, extraplanar like enemy now. So with that, if there is a creature like that in the multiverse, it is only a hop, skip, and a jump to any other timeline and any other part of the multiverse. So just by introducing that, I think they brought about a whole new, list of things that they can do with that, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Tony.
I think they had their own versions of the hero disappearing, right? So Steve is very selfless. We saw him being selfless before when Tommy Lee Jones throws a grenade and he jumps on top of it, even though if you catch it, Peggy's also jumping on top of that grenade as well. and then how he goes into the ice as he's sacrificing himself for the greater good. Peggy is a fucking fighter. And she's like, I'm sacrificing myself while fighting this thing and going through some interdimensional portal, and I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm still going to fight it, and I'm still going to save the day. So I think they really took their two key descriptive factors of these characters and had them disappear very relatable to who they are as characters. So I thought it was very, very cool to make it different and the same at the same time. And then, Steve waking up and kind of just being woken up and in shock that he's alive, but versus Peggy, where she's coming out ready to fight and just ready to kind of keep everything moving. And then she's very, very reminiscent of what we saw in the beginning of Avengers 1, when it's supposed to be Loki coming through and Samuel L. Jackson's, yo, my man, lay down the scepter. When he's like, please lay down the sword. Let's talk. And it makes sense for her to come out that way, ready for battle, because in when Loki came out, that was an act of war. That was an act of aggression. For her, she's now here as a call of aid. Apparently, maybe we don't know. So I think it was cool how they
more tragic tone.
More tragic.
Yeah.
I say Peggy.
I think they were both tragic. You felt it. Yeah.
I mean, but Steve knew what Steve knew that he was sacrificing himself. Knew that he was sacrificing himself, and then
didn't expect to come. Yeah,
didn't expect to come back. Peggy, for all intents and purposes, when she fought Sumagarath, we don't know what that time bubble is, because there's always those you don't really know, right? Like she goes through the portal, and then instantaneously in one shot, she's coming out 70 years later after fighting that. So to her, it's been like a blip of time, like what happened to Scott Lang when he was in.
True.
In the quantum universe.
Yeah.
Charlie.
5 years was 5 hours. So I think for her it's tragic, because she's coming back thinking, I'm gonna go see Steve and see all my friends, and she's like, it's 7 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Tone, only because for Steve, he's more like he's waking up from a coma like state, and it takes time for him to adjust and come to the realization that he's in the future. Where for Peggy, the moment she comes back, it's a instant reaction to where she's like, in that moment, in the way they did the animation, you can see it on her face. And I think that I feel like it falls short in that it only falls short because of the time frame, the time limit that they have and they're going for the episode. It falls slightly short, but I think there's also a great job in there that you see it on her face that she's like, wow, like, and it's that devastating wow, like she knows without anybody telling her that she has missed out on time, which is very important. So I'm gonna go with Captain Carter on this one. Like I think that it's more tragic for her because she's quickly realizing where Steve had time to process. Yeah.
And just for those wondering, this is Suma Gorath. This is who they're thinking that this is who she was fighting. But it's interesting because the rumors and reports are that this is possibly the villain for Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh.
And do you think it's coincidence that they're saying that what if it's canon and Doctor Strange is going to take place
in the first episode was what if gave us this. That'd be interesting.
Ooh, Sumaraf. If you don't remember him, go play Marvel vs. Capcom.
What would have been interesting is and I'm going to say this, if when she came out she only had the shield, but in the Marvel cinematic when Doctor Strange is fighting him, if that's the case, there's a sword stuck in. There's a sword stuck in.
Yo, Aurelis.
That would have been pretty cool.
Wow. Oh man, just have them at the table with each other, Starro and Shuma.
But yes, Charlie. It's
listen. I gotta say this. If this is the future of, because they've already announced it too. After I don't think it's coincidence that after this show's first episode dropped that they're like, yeah, Marvel's making a whole animation division now. And it's like you said in the beginning, we said that DC for many years we gave them like, well, they make great animations, and it's like now it's like, what's the excuse going to be? I mean, I'm happy for all of it, but it's like, what is going to be excuse now? It's like one engine can't turn. It's like where this one's now getting all the cogs moving and everything. It's like, dude, I'm excited, and I'm glad that the next episode's coming out tomorrow. So
I don't have nothing else to say.
Yeah, that was a quick, just hard stop.
Yo, we're gonna be at like an hour exact. Damn.
Ooh, man, this is the first. This is the first that we haven't gone over.
Yeah.
We're about to.
All right.
Well,
I
won't ask for this last question.
No, you got another question?
Yeah,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
It's fine.
Me and Sean were talking about this. Damn, is Sean not on the show? So I'm like, so
you're in the tough spot.
With me.
Yeah, 1 hour. We don't know 1 hour. 1 hour doesn't exist here.
So, as you guys know, I study film. And one of the conversations that's happening right now is the idea of fast food versus substance. So to give more context to this, there's the conversation that movies like Marvel is fast food because it follows a set ideal of what movies can be, or that genre of superhero movies where there's no substance, there's no in-depth. So you have Scorsese talking about that there's no depth in the roles being played. So I kind of wonder, what are other people's take? Do you feel that superhero movies have become the fast food of entertainment because you know what you're going to get? There's no the flavor is always the same. It's like you go to McDonald's, you know you're gonna Tone. Yeah. Damn, Tone. Like
I would say phase 1 of Marvel. Yes. I would say 100%. Phase
was
1 of
what?
Marvel.
Substance or
fast food.
Oh.
Good fast food. So like good fast food.
Okay.
Like Chipotle, right?
Oh,
right, like
okay,
because there's level. It depends. I like Chipotle. Chipotle's a real,
I love Chipotle. I didn't like their first Avengers movie.
We're gonna make everybody hungry now.
Is that like a code for?
No. I'm just saying, like, because like there's various levels of fast food. So, but I'm saying good fast food is Marvel Phase 1 because they had to get something out that was just good enough for us to accept, right? And that is true. There's nothing wrong with just
also too, guys, shout out to Emilio. Put his link in the description to check out his comic. It's there. So
it's Emilio, like 100%. There's nothing wrong with being entertained. I'm just answer the question, right? I would say fast food because Iron Man 1, I say, is the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I'll call a spade. Marvel Iron Man 2 isn't that good, and the Hulk with Ed Norton isn't that good. And Thor with blonde fucking eyebrows, it has moments.
Okay.
And Captain America 1 it can be boring at times. My wife has not watched Captain America 1. We've put it on 3 times. She's fallen asleep 3 times, but she loves Captain America 2 and 3. Wow. So I would say that phase 1 is very fast food. Phase 2, when we start getting into Michelle tease me. Michelle understands. Phase 2, we start.
Wasn't amazing.
Phase 2, when Kevin Feige really is like at this point, it's pretty much talking to Bob Iger at this point. He's holding all the reins, and now we're getting more genre films.
Okay,
that's when Marvel starts getting genre films. Winter Soldier, I think me and Law and a bunch of us feel it's a spy flick that happens to be a superhero movie. But if you don't tell someone it's a superhero movie, you can still enjoy it.
Yeah. And we said that about Black Widow too.
Yeah, and we said that, we said it about Black Widow. So I think as we, aside from some of the origin stories, so like Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, things like that, like they had to be superhero movies, but it started becoming genre films, and then films that started having feeling to it. And I think they were able to culminate that with Endgame and with Infinity War.
Okay. Because Ant-Man was a heist flick.
Ant-Man's a heist movie. But like those two, and Endgame and Infinity War, are a culmination of 10 years of work. And all these legendary directors can say whatever they want. They have not done something that has been the culmination of work that led up to a story. I love Scorsese. I love Tarantino
and all these other guys.
I love all those guys, but their work doesn't balance on top and relying on the one before it to carry a coherent story. So I think it starts as fast food, and then eventually we got really gourmet food, and now we're at a point of trying to figure out how Marvel's going to keep it up. Like that's where I'm at. I'm like, how the fuck are you guys going to keep this up? Because there's going to be some stumbles, and there's going to be ensemble films that may not work. But also they take risks. They are not afraid to take risks, where DC doesn't take no fucking risks. Like they don't. Like they're taking risks. They are doubling down on the diversity aspect. They are doubling down on obscure comic book characters. Just doubling down on all this, bringing in newer versions of comic book characters played by different people. And that's not fast food. I think fast food you expect to taste the same every time you have it, no matter where you go. At any point. And I think Marvel's beyond that.
DC's giving us bodega food, the bad type.
No.
Well, going back to
bodega food.
I said the bad type. I said the bad type. You see, I saved myself right there.
Going back to what I said earlier, I think what it is with DC, there's no consistency, and you can kind of say that with Marvel because we have like 3 different Spider-Man movies. Whatever. I think Marvel.
That's no actually Sony's fault, though.
No matter what, there's a consistency with the Marvel films. As far as the topic goes of substance and fast food, I'm in the middle. I think there's a gray area, and I think there's something that nobody's talking about. I think Scorsese's right in the sense of Hollywood is missing substance, but that's Hollywood's fault. The reason it's Hollywood's fault is when you start having people focus on let's do a remake, and you don't leave room, or you're not even looking for room for new stories. You're just baking off of remakes. Then you get into this place where directors like Scorsese, Tarantino, so forth, who are
adaptation after adaptation,
who are used to creating genres or material that is a form of substance, are like, hey, everything is being taken over by the superhero genre. Now, to your point, Tony, and I agree with you, what nobody is realizing, and you just hit the nail in the coffin, within the superhero genre, you can create substance by telling the stories that are missing. So just like Born Identity, like you get a Born Identity type story. Okay, somebody can write that in a different facet. They don't have to use a Marvel superhero. It just so happens Marvel has brought together a creative team to say, hey, how do we break from the norm of just focusing on genres? How do we tell stories within these genres? And I think that is in itself the substance. So I think right now we are experiencing a form of substance, but there is that area that's missing, and I think it's a Hollywood issue. It's not an issue that's supposed to fall on the fans or the audience. It's a Hollywood issue. I'm gonna play devil's advocate there. I'm gonna say I agree with Scorsese, but then I don't agree with Scorsese because of one thing. When it comes down, again, I'm not, and people are probably not a Marvel fan, but from what I've seen is that Feige, who people have gone on record saying he's the best producer, he is taking something different with the superhero genre and show that you can tell more stories with that. I get what you meant with Spider-Man, but Spider-Man was more of a Sony thing because Sony was doing that, and at the time you had a lot of studios that were releasing a lot of superhero content, but they weren't delivering stories. They weren't delivering substance. They weren't giving you the steak. They were just giving you, oh, here's your burger. There you go. And the thing is that a lot of studios, and it's not just superhero movies, it's other types of movies as well that want to copy that formula, but then they rush. We saw that with the DC movies. They rushed. They didn't make a formula where, like Tone pointed out, this was a 10-year plan, and this plan is still going beyond the 10 years that was already put in place. So there's scripts that they've been working on. For example, Ant-Man, they wanted to try to have him for the first Avengers movie, but they held it off and put Ant-Man in the next phase. DC didn't do that with their characters. Like
They should have had Wonder Woman with her own movie, not as a side character in Batman versus Superman. Batman versus Superman shouldn't have happened. We should have got Superman 2 and Batman in his own solo movie. There are a lot of things we should have seen different in that first phase DC. And the thing is that now when Scorsese's tackling superhero movies, it's because a lot of people want to copy the Marvel formula because they're like, oh, if we build this whole expansion thing, take these for example, Netflix now has purchased a bunch of superhero properties. I think they have the Millerverse, and they just released a show. Was it Jupiter's Legacy?
Trash.
Jupiter's, yes. And the thing is this, they released that show. Now it's a great book. They released a show, and the show has very mixed reviews, but you know who did it better? Amazon's The Boys. But this is something that they were copying. You know who did it better? When they did the Umbrella Academy, and they did it better when it came. We didn't need that. We didn't need, and you're starting to see this thing where it is a problem in Hollywood. And I think it was James Gunn that pointed out that they're like, when Hollywood sees something take off, you're going to see nothing but copies after that.
But that's our society. That's our capitalistic society. That's our profitable society. So.
But that is a Hollywood problem because if you look at it again, that led into DC when they did the first Suicide Squad movie. They saw what worked for Guardians 1 and Deadpool 1. Because look at the trailers for the original Suicide Squad movie, and then after Deadpool drop, look how quick they changed those trailers to try to make it the fun, hip villain movie that was trying to copy what Deadpool had done.
Well, and that's why I go back to, because even if you go back before that, even if you step out of DC and Marvel, if you look at the Twilight franchise, if you talk about
Lord of the Rings,
Hunger Games,
Harry Potter,
Lord of the Rings.
I heard this back in the early 2000s when they were like the new cinema time frame that we're going to go through is the year of the trilogies, and that's what we went through. But there was very little substance in those trilogy. I would say Lord of the Rings gave some substance. The
second one, I don't know about the Hobbit.
How many?
The Hobbit, that was a studio thing. The studio wanted 3. They originally were going to do 2 movies.
Yeah. How many Paranormal Activities are there? Like how many I think that's what Scorsese is talking about and without realizing that, yes, he's kind of playing victim because how many mafia movies has he created? Even though for him he can say, okay, each of his mafia movies are different because they tell a different aspect. Yeah, you can relate that to superhero movies.
So the thing with that is that some stuff I've heard in regards to Scorsese and mafia movies was that Scorsese was doing mafia movies when westerns were like all the range, and the same shit that superhero movies are getting now is the same type of shit that mafia movies were getting. Because that's all that kept happening. He's the king of mafia movies, right? But that's happening. He's now the old man yelling at the sky.
But I think the fear here is because even I think about it sometimes. When is the well going to run dry? If everything becomes superhero movies, then when do we go? And I don't think it. I think this is when you phase away from the word substance. Because substance is something that shifts in different genres. I think the fear is what happens if superhero movies become the everything. And none of us, even at fangirls, fanboys, we don't want that. Like, we're happy that we're in a genre that the technology is there to bring to life superheroes the way that we see them. But just like you guys don't sit at home on the weekends like, oh, there's nothing on, I guess I'm going to rewatch Marvel. Like, we watch other things. And I think that's where that fear is. People are afraid that the substance or the quality is just going to be everything's a superhero movie to the point that nothing is really a superhero movie.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing I want to add to that too is that if you notice again, like when we said when it changed was when Captain America Winter Soldier doesn't feel like a superhero movie, it feels like a spy movie. So now when you start telling stories that just involve characters who we know as superheroes, we're looking at the overall story. If you're gonna do a superhero movie, we know like the point A to point B superhero movie. It's just gonna be a superhero movie. But now when you start to get deep and dive and start tackling the characters and the issues and all that, that's when now the story starts to flesh out. And you're getting more than just a superhero movie. But go ahead, son. I'm sorry.
So I think and this may be my personal preference when it comes to these substance films that Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, all these directors make, is that it's tied to the movie theater going experience. Superhero movies and book movies and all these generate so much fucking money. That's why Hollywood wants to do it. I like theater, right? Cinema. I like those movies. Am I going to the theater to see them? I am not. I'm not. Like, I just rented The Green Knight, which I really want to see, with Dev Patel, and A24 is doing a screening, and you can pay $20 to watch the screening tomorrow night between X amount of hours. And I want to see it. I wasn't probably going to the theater to see it, but I want to see it because I've heard really good things about it. All these really specific movies that are considered theater or cinema that get Oscar praise and everything, I want to see them, but I don't want to go. I don't need the theater experience to experience it. They don't. To me, that's watching it with a partner and having a discussion with it, talking about it later, having some wine, having dinner. I want to watch that movie and have that. When it comes to a superhero movie, I want to go to the IMAX and I want to have the best experience. I want the big ass screen. I want all the fucking sound. And so I think it's hard when we talk about this because these guys are making all these films, but they're expecting it to be a theater experience. And we're now in a day and age where we don't need the theater experience to experience really good media.
I don't think it's quite that. I think so. Seabass says something that just clicked for me. I think the fear that people are thinking of but not talking about is what you see in The Boys, where superheroes become so commercialized that they're every part of culture to the point that you're just over it. And think about it. And there was a comment that was just made about how, like, in the comic book industry, you see that, like, the genre keeps going strong. But be honest, even as fans, we get tired sometimes when we start to feel like the thing that we enjoy is being overly commercialized. And right now we're at a peak where, once again, it's good quality. But the fear is when it hits that pivot and it starts to come back down, will it come back down in a way that we go back to our whatever the new normal is? And there still are some superhero movies not as heavy as we have now, or do we go back to a phase where it's kind of like, you know what, nobody really appreciates the superhero comic or superhero movies anymore because it's now been so saturated and over commercialized? It's no different than when we talk about zombies or vampires.
Charlie, we're gonna invade your show to do that. We're gonna make this a topic. We're gonna make this a nice special because you want to know what, we gotta get Sean on this. But it has been 15 minutes, 16 past the hour. It has been a fun episode. We know you're coughing back there, Will. Anyway, no, Charlie, I want to thank you for coming on, guys. It's been another episode of Nerds Around. I want to give a shout out for Emilio putting out that comment too. Check out his book. If you are loving superhero comics, it's by Darkfire Press. It's called Exodus. The link is in the description. Check out the interview we just did with Chandra Free. And if you want to see us continue this conversation with Charlie and with his other half, Sean, we will continue this. Just let us know in the comments. But at the end of the day, we just want you guys to enjoy. We will be back next Tuesday with Eric Hutch. This has been another episode of Nerds Around. This has been your boy Sebastian.
Boy, hello.
And your boy Tone from across the hall.
With Pastor Charlie guest hosting.
Well, hell.